Hello, and welcome to Military Illumination, a podcast for high school students who are considering a military career, or anyone who's affiliated with or knows of a high school student, whether or not they're considering the military the experience or not. It's also for people who may be in the military currently and thinking about re-enlisting but not quite sure, or just who are looking for information to figure out what the military is about, what are the ins and outs, and what are some of the pitfalls. I'm Gary, and I'll be your host. And as we go through this journey, let's turn on the lights. Today's episode is military retirement. It's part one. Can you truly retire? It's a play on words, as you would say. Usually I have a story at the end, but I'm going to include one at the beginning because it really sets everything up. It sets everything up into and lead into what we're gonna be talking about. I'm a military veteran, and I was in for about a little bit over 9 years. I joined for the benefits of the education, as you already know from the other podcasts. But I had a plan. I had wanted to get out. Instead of being on the East Coast, I wanted to get out on the West Coast where I lived at. So I did re-enlist, thinking that I would spend most of my time here at Fort Lewis, whereas I was at Fort Bragg. They kept sending me back there. That was my home base. So I just figured, well, it's going to be the same thing. So I re-enlisted for 4 years to come back to Fort Lewis. But after thinking through my last podcast and kind of running into situations, I come to realize that the military they gave me what I wanted up front, the tour of duty in Fort Lewis. But that shelf life was only for a year. Anyone who's been in the military knows that you don't really stay in one spot for very long. That it also is interesting that people that I knew that were in the military, as soon as they bought a house, within 6 months they were coming down to orders. It's an interesting scenario. So anyways, lo and behold, as I reflect back on here, every assignment, every job that I was being assigned for was pushing me away from Fort Lewis. At one time, they tried to get me back to Fort Bragg. So that got me thinking. I signed up thinking that I was going to spend most of my time here at Fort Lewis and then get out and have a seamless exit. That's what I was thinking. But the military intentions was different. Yes, they got me for 4 years based on what I wanted. I think there's a bonus in there someplace too. But then they tried everything they could to move me. So that would have nullified my plans, and I would have always been back where I started from, away from the place I wanted to get out at. And there's recruiting schools, there was assignments to the East Coast. It was everything. What does this have to do with retirement? It has everything to do with military retirement. Because once again, a person enlists wanting to do a career stint, 20 years, and then get out and retire. And in most cases, they're thinking that they won't have to work or work very little. The military gets you for 20 years. That's if you make it, that's a different story. But in actuality, the military retirement isn't the same as the civilian retirement. Okay. Second, I think, is that you probably won't be near where you want to get out at. So there's going to be that transition that you have to deal with. One thing, like I said before, I re-enlisted to come to Fort Lewis. That was my plan. And they gave it to me, but they were taking it back. They were countering what I was trying to do. So you go in the military to retire, but all the time they're countering that. They're either going to move a person away from where they want to retire at. So they had the choices, or they may put stumbling blocks in the retirement process. So let's look at the military retirement. Can you truly retire? The military is at 20 years. Usually a person goes in there at 18, maybe they do 20, they're 38, 40 years old. Okay? Civilian, when they talk about retiring, they're going to go into their 60, 65. And then they're going to get in conjunction with their retirement pension, they're going to get your Social Security. And in a lot of cases, if you're taking care of your business properly, that's going to be enough for you to retire on. You can truly, really not work or work very little, if anything. But with the military, when you retire at 20 years, if you make it that far, and you're the average person, there's people who go 30 years, sergeant major, first sergeant, but that's rare. That's the top 1%. You're going to be in your late 30s, early 40s, or mid 40s. Your chances are you're going to have a debt. Chances are you're going to have multiple relationships. You're going to have family, right? Chances are that the job that you did in the military will not directly correspond to the job that you're going to get into. So therefore, there's a period of time where you're having to start at the bottom to move up, okay? And then also not dealing with the PTSD type stuff and family relationships. So really, you're looking at two different ways. You're looking at two different things. Military retirement is not the same as civilian retirement. They're two different things. But when people talk about retirement in the military, they're thinking it's a play on words, meaning that it's going to be like a civilian. And that's not the case. So during a career, that's not the case. When you're leaving a job, a lot of times there's a compensation package where maybe there's a compensation package where if for a period of time, you're going to be taken care of handsomely. Military, there's no compensation package, right? There is your retirement and there's health and dental, but that comes at a price. We'll talk about that later. So let's go back here. Retirement in the military is not the same as in civilian. So you don't look at it that way. Okay. Military, you play in words, and it's across the board. Second thing is, you won't be getting a compensation package. You don't get a whole lump sum of money. You're not gonna. All right, you're gonna basically one month you're gonna have money, next month you're not gonna have money, at the level that a person wants. The medical and dental insurance, there's a difference. There's the difference as well. Okay, it used to be in the military that was all free. You get out, that was a benefit. It was free medical and dental for life. Not no more. You have to pay into that. Okay, there's a lesson that you're having to pay into those things. So not only are you're paid, but you also for the benefits, you're going to have to pay for it. So is that truly retirement? Whereas if you're civilian, you're retired at 60, 65, or whatever, 67, you're going to Medicaid, medical, you're going to have dental, you're going to have all those things. And chances are a lot of times the people in the military, they're sitting there thinking, I'm going to retire, I'm going to have my base pay. Listen, half your base pay. I want you to put that back in your mind. We're going to come back to it again. Half your base pay. We'll come back to it again, okay? They're going to have things. So basically, in military, and so in civilian, chances are they're saving up for the retirement. They're saving up. They're putting money aside to 401k. They're setting it aside to different things. A lot of times, most military people, they're living paycheck to paycheck anyways. A lot of them won't have an auxiliary form of investments. Chances are very few. But with the civilian, you can have your job with you paying into it, but then you might have to run aside because that's your mindset. That's people around you. You're going to probably run into more people that's going to be offering that kind of thing. One of the people, your friends might be having their own 401k, their own retirement system outside their jobs. The benefit of retiring at 20 years is it truly a retirement in the sense of the word retirement in civilian? That's the question you had to ask yourself. Are you going to be able to go to some exotic island, sip on Mai Tais and cocktails and not work? For some, maybe. Maybe you're an officer, perhaps. Maybe if you're enlisted, they right with your money, could be. Maybe you're married to someone who's got a job and it corresponds with your travel. But we're not looking at the maybes. We're turning our lights to the reality. And the reality is that in the sense of a civilian retirement, as we know it, you cannot truly retire in the military. Sometimes, even in retirement in the military, there's other things, mental health issues, physical issues that may limit the person depending on what their job is. So you can have PTSD where you just, you're all messed, where you have challenges that will not allow you to kind of work more jobs or whatever. I'm not going to hinder that. So my story, the connection to the, can you truly retire? It's going to be the same thing, I guess, as I talk to you. Usually I have it in the back of my head. Usually I have it in the back end. I had it in the front end this time. Was that what you're trying to achieve in the military, in most cases, can be countered by what the military needs. And that's in the contract, the needs of the military. Okay, what I was trying to achieve was to get out. I was at Fort Bragg. I want to get out and have it seamless. I want to have a job lined up, get ready for my schooling, seamless, versus coming in all across country and have to start off from scratch, which is what most people have to do. In the contract, it says if the job the person cannot get, the MOS that they signed up for, is they don't pass that schooling or they don't pass it, then they're going to be assigned based on the needs of the military. It's safe to say that your life isn't your life. Your life is based on the needs of the military. Just think about them as you think about a military career. Yeah, and there's a lot of people who retire. I would say there's a lot of people who retire, but then there's a lot more who get right to the doorstep and get it yanked from them. That's something that's we'll talk about it later. That's a 19-year itch that we'll talk about the military, what they do. Corporations do the same thing, but that's not what we're going to talk about today. Really, part one is all about, can you really retire? Look at all the facts, weigh everything, right? And then make a decision. This is especially for young men and young women who's in high school who's thinking about making the military a career, who all they can see is that 20 retirement. All they're seeing for money. You know, everything looks shiny. It's that allure that we're talking about. It looks like it. It moves like it. It smells like it. It acts like it. But really, it is just a lure with a hook, right? And that's what happened with them. And when they figured it out, that is not what they thought it was going to be. When the lights come on, they're stuck in the military for 8 years. Yeah, I said 8 years. They didn't want to say 3 and 4, whatever, short than that. You're in the military for 8 years. Read the contract. That's just another way to get people to come in there. It's either to tell somebody to come in for 4 years and then extend it out to another 4 years, than to tell them to come in for 8 years. But that's never here or there. So thanks for listening. Share with a high school kid. Share with someone who's just getting started out in life, is looking for a way to make things happen for themselves. Do your research, Google it, and everything I say, you just Google it. Or don't talk to the recruiter. Don't ask them, because they're devil in boots, right? But just figure it out. Or a Dixie cap, if you know, or with wings, if you know, and the other thing, I won't talk about them. All right? Until next time, I'm going to turn the lights off right now. And next time we turn the lights on, we're going to be in episode 15, Retirement Calculations, Part 2. Thank you. Have a great day. Hello, and welcome to Military Illumination.